OMG, I am super excited for this video. I have spent hours scouring websites like Amazon, Goodreads, and reading blogs looking for new releases for 2025. I thought I was going to be all cute like my top 25 2025 reads. But no, because there were too many good ones. So y'all just gonna have to bear with me. These are my top 27 most anticipated reads for 2025. Now, if you're new here, when I do a TBR that's longer than like 6 books, I like to break up the reads into age range and general genre. And also, I order them by their release date. I understand not everybody likes sci fi, romance, and fantasy. So, to help you, the viewer, I chapter the video so you can skip right to the genres that you want to hear about. It just started raining, y'all. So if y'all hear like heavy rain, that's outside. Of course, thank goodness, right? Enjoy the ambiance if you're able to hear it. Anyway, so the first book is The Queen's Spade by Sarah Rowley. The year is 1862, and murderous desires are simmering in England. 19-year-old Sarah Bonetta Forbes, or Sally, once a princess of the Igboto clan, desires one thing above all else: revenge against the British crown and its system of colonial humanitarianism. I think I said that right. Which stole her dignity and transformed her into royal property. From military men to political leaders, she's vowed to ruin all who've had a hand in her afflictions. The top of her list, her godmother, Britain's mighty monarch, Queen Victoria herself. Taking down the crown means entering into a twisted game of court politics and manipulating the Queen's inner circle, even if that means aligning with a dangerous yet alluring crime lord in London's underworld and exploiting the affections of Queen Victoria's own son, Prince Albert, as a means to an end. But when Queen Victoria begins to suspect Sally's true intentions, she plays the only card in Victorian society that could possibly cage Sally once again: marriage. Because if there's one thing Sally desires more than revenge, it's her freedom. With time running out and her wedding day looming, Sally's vengeful game of cat and mouse turns deadly as she's faced with the striking revelation that the price for vengeance isn't just paid in blood. It means sacrificing your heart. Inspired by the true story of Sarah Forbes Bonetta, Queen Victoria's African goddaughter, The Queen's Spade is a lush and riveting historical thriller for fans of The Ravenous Fate, A Dowry of Blood, and Grave Mercy. Now, none of those I have read, but this sounds hella good. I've mentioned in my previous videos that I definitely want to get more into historical fiction. Oh, the power just blinked out a little bit. Um, I definitely want to get more into historical fiction. For me, I feel like for me to do that, there has to be a thriller component or a fantasy component to it. Definitely romance is the way to do that. Okay. But yeah, this one has a thriller component and a little bit of romance, it seems, because Sally is going to have to play on the affections of Prince Albert and get help from an alluring crime lord. So this really sounds good. Next up is The Otherwhere Post by Emily J. Taylor. So from the synopsis, Maeve Abinthy is a young lady that has lost a lot. Her family name, her home, and most of all, her father, after he's accused of some very severe crimes. One day she receives a letter, anonymous, saying that her father is innocent. In order for Maeve to figure out the truth, find the truth, she decides to go undercover as an apprentice at the Otherwhere Post. Think of it as an interdimensional post office. As an apprentice, Maeve is going to have to learn the art of scriptomancy. Is a magical ability to enchant letters so they're protected as they travel through different dimensions. Now, of course, y'all know I love sci-fi. I love magic. So, hearing about a interdimensional post office, sign me up. I want to work there. So May's presence at the post is gaining some attention. One, by her handsome, mysterious mentor, who is questioning if she's actually who she says she is, and the other by some anonymous threat, someone who's threatening her to stop her investigation, or they're going to force her to stop with her life. Evelyn can remember every single one of her past lives, and the fact that she's been murdered by her 18th birthday in every single one of them. She's been hunted by this supernatural being that has a tie to her soul. And in this lifetime, her current life, she has a sibling that she definitely wants to stick around for. Her younger sister is in need of an organ transplant, and Evelyn is a match. But in order for her to be around, she has to confront this centuries old devil that has been hunting her. Looking forward to reading about how she's going to break this centuries old soul tie. She's going to need a lot of holy water, some hot foot powder, some black salt, some crystals. She probably going to need some bones. Let me stop. I done read too many books, okay? All right. Marin's cousin has recently passed away mysteriously on the property of the elite boarding school that she attended. Now, no one has any answers, and understandably so, this is not good enough for Marin. So she decides to leave her regular school and enroll at the academy to investigate. She does believe that the elite boys of the school, Adrian and Henry, are aware and were involved in her cousin's death. Now, Marin is not prepared for the secrets that lie behind the walls of Huntsworth Academy, nor her attraction to the boys that she seeks justice against. Last summer, Nan ventured into the canyons along with her three friends, and only Nan returned. It's a year later, and the town is holding a memorial. Now, no one expects for the memorial to be interrupted by one of the three returning, especially Nan, because she killed all three. I thought the synopsis for this was really interesting because it doesn't give too much away. I can't tell if this is going to be something supernatural or if it's going to be a plain old psychological thriller. Last up in the YA and teen genre is Embrace the Serpent by Sonia Mara. So the synopsis says the Serpent King is the most eligible bachelor in the land, a monster with dark and terrible magic, and the ruler of the last free kingdom. Riches and power await his future bride, but also a life forever trapped in the game of court. That fate is 18-year-old Saphira's worst nightmare. Ever since the Empire made her an orphan, she's found freedom in being invisible. So, despite her rare gift for harnessing the magic in gemstones, she lets an unscrupulous jewelsmith take credit for her increasingly sought after work. But when the king sends his most clever huntsman to find the best jewelsmith of all, the spotlight lands on Saphira. Faced with choosing between falling into the Empire's grasp or marrying a monster, she chooses the latter, even if it means getting increasingly caught between her cold, serpentine husband and his cunning, handsome huntsman. I like reads where, why choose? Why choose? Now, being that this is a YA read, I'm assuming she's going to have to choose. But reading about the angst in the choosing is fun. I mentioned earlier that I want to find more historical fiction reads, and I definitely did and could not pass up adding these two. Heir to a Fortune, Margaret is destined for a life of prosperity and gentility. Then she is orphaned, and her guardian, an enigmatic and I think I said that right, and volatile man, spends her inheritance and insists she accompany him on an expedition to New France. Isolated and afraid, Margaret befriends her guardian's servant, and the two develop an intense attraction. But when their relationship is discovered, they are brutally punished and abandoned on a small island with no hope for rescue. Inspired by the real life of a 16th century heroine, Isola is the timeless story of a woman fighting for survival. Now, this next one didn't have much in terms of a synopsis, but I'm sure many of us, including myself, are already familiar with the story of Queen Cleopatra. I enjoy Faybound by Sarah L. Arifi. And so when I saw this one, I definitely had to add it. On a back street in Tokyo lies a pawn shop, but not everyone can find it. Most will see a cozy ramen restaurant, and only the chosen ones, those who are lost, will find a place to pawn their life choices and deepest regrets. Can you imagine being able to pawn your regrets and life choices? On one hand, good, bye. Like I don't want to have to deal with you no more. But on the other hand, those regrets and life choices have made you who you are. Hana Ishikawa wakes on her first morning as the pawn shop's new owner to find it ransacked, the shop's most precious acquisition stolen, and her father missing. And then into the shop stumbles a charming stranger quite unlike its other customers, for he offers help instead of seeking it. Together, they must journey through a mystical world to find Hana's father and the stolen choice by way of rain, puddles, rides on paper cranes, the bridge between midnight and morning, and a night market in the clouds. But as they get closer to the truth, Hana must reveal a secret of her own and risk making a choice that she will never be able to take back. I won't spend too much time on this next one, but it is the second book in the Feybound series. It's called Cursebound by Sarah L. Arifi. If you guys have been following me this year, you know that I thoroughly enjoyed the first book and I am looking forward to this one. So this next one gave me folk fantasy, even though that wasn't in the genre information. And it is The Amber Owl. Stasia lives a very isolated life on the edge of a very mysterious forest with her very unusual dog. In her village, Stasia is known for her uncanny ability to get along with animals. This reaches the king's ears, and he tries to command Stasia's help in getting his men through the forest. He believes that there is a treasure and he needs her help to get his men through the forest because there is said to be evil spirits and monsters within it. Stasia is wholly against this. She believes whatever is within the forest should be left alone. So she decides to join an unlikely band of allies in efforts to protect said forest. I love tarot and the divination in it. And The Empress by Kirsten Cast will be my second time reaching for a book that personifies tarot in some way. The first book I read was a bit of a disappointment. So I decided I'm going to give it another chance. I think it's very interesting. So hopefully this read won't disappoint. I had to make sure somewhere in my romance TBR was a sports romance, and I found one. I don't think I need to provide an overview for this one because we know how it goes. It's a sports romance. But what I will say is that the main characters did not expect to fall into the deep end for the other. Before I give an overview for this next one, I just want to say if I could choose a cozy, cutesy, happily ever romance to be the main character for, it would be this one. Sybil has been down on her luck job wise and romantically. She's concerned not only herself, but her family with her choices and the direction of her life. One day, she decides to spend her last on a lottery ticket and a late night run to a donut shop. One thing leads to another, and Sybil ends up sleeping with the handsome proprietor of said donut shop, Kieran, and leaving behind her multi-million dollar winning ticket. Kieran, who has put his own dreams aside of becoming a doctor, makes a good faith effort to find Sybil and return the ticket. His efforts gain media attention and eventually he finds Sybil. In order for them both to get something out of this situation, they agree to fake date. Bengino Benny Caldera knows as an orphaned Boricua, and I actually had to look up what a Boricua was, and it's someone of Puerto Rican ethnicity. He knows as an orphaned Boricua blacksmith in 1910's New York City that he cannot call himself an artist. But the ironwork tank he creates for famed Coney Island playground, Luna Park, astounds everyone, especially the eccentric sideshow proprietor who commissioned it. Benny's work earns him an invitation to join the show's eclectic crew of performers, his first welcome in the city, and share in their astonishing secret. The tank Benny built is a cage for their newest exhibit, a living, breathing, in the flesh merman stolen from the banks of the East River under a gleaming full moon. The mermaid is more than a mythic marvel, though. Benny comes to know Rio as a clever philosopher, an observant traveler, and a kindred spirit more beautiful and compassionate than any human he's ever met. Despite their different worlds, what begins as a friendship of necessity deepens to love, leaving mm, leading Benny's heart into uncharted waters where he can no longer ignore the agonizing truth of Rio's captivity and his own. A cage is no place for a merman to survive, though releasing Rio means betraying his new family, bankrupting their home, and losing his soulmate forever. Benny must look within for courage to do what's right and find a love strong enough to free them both. When the Tides Held the Moon is a beautifully illustrated novel with artwork throughout by Vanessa Vita Kelly, known for her stunning romance and fantasy art. This novel includes two different full color end chapters for both front and back, fully designed chapter headers, and 27 pieces of detailed illustrations. I'm definitely looking forward to this book, especially because of mention of the illustrations that are going to be in it. And if this book sounds interesting to you, I've mentioned a book previously. It's called A Bone in His Teeth. It has the same representation. One of the characters is a transgender male, and the other is a male mermaid. That book, A Bone in His Teeth, is definitely for a mature audience, okay? 18 and over, all right? But yeah, if this read sounds interesting to you, you might also like that one. Mr. Grady Green is about to have the best and worst day of his life. He's received some very exciting news about his book and he's eager to tell his wife. He calls her on her way home to relay the good news. And while on the call, he hears her slam on her brakes, the car door open, and then silence. It's a year later, and Mr. Grady is grieving the disappearance of his wife and the fact that his book is not on track. So he decides to get away to a small Scottish island, of course, continuing to grieve, but to also to try to get his book on track. And that is until he sees a woman that looked a lot like his missing wife. So until finding this read, I didn't realize there was like a subgenre of books classified as domestic or domestic thrillers. Apparently, they're books that were geared towards middle aged women. They usually involve stories about marriage and children and home life and stuff like that. So from what I got, I think the POV might just be from Mr. Grady, but this is going to be interesting because I don't read many books about like marriages and the dissolving of them or the conflicts that take place in a marriage. So this is going to be different for me. Now, where are my survival thriller through the night readers at? This next one is for you. Carrie's life is in shambles. Her husband has left her. Her drinking habit has officially become a problem. And though the deadline for her big book deal, the one that was supposed to change everything, is looming, she can't write a word. When she sees an ad for a caretaker position at a revitalized roadside motel in the Catskills, she jumps at the chance. It's the perfect getaway to finish her book and start fresh. So this is another one, right? This is another one about a writer who is married and going through some tough times. But as she bunkers down in a blizzard, she spots something through the window, a pale arm peeking out from a heap of snow. Trapped in the mountains and alone with a dead frozen body, Carrie must keep her head and make it out before the killer comes for her too. But is the deadly game of cat and mouse all in her mind? The body count begs to differ. Okay, close your eyes and count to 10. Now, I hope you actually didn't do that, or else you won't be able to see the next book cover. It's called Close Your Eyes and Count to 10. Charismatic daredevil and extreme adventurer Maverick Dillon invites you to the ultimate game of hide and seek. But as the players gather on Falcow Island, the event quickly spirals into a chilling test of survival. A storm rages as a deadly threat stalks the contestants, turning the challenge into something far more sinister than the social media stunt it was intended to be. Enter Adele, a single mother with a fierce determination to protect her children at all costs. When she begins the game, she unwittingly enters a twisted web of deception and intrigue. Can she maneuver through the treacherous storm and relentless competition and get home to her family? In a ruthless battle for survival where the stakes are higher than ever, the blurry line between the virtual and the real proves that the only person we can trust is ourselves. When I read the synopsis for this the first time, of course, and still, it's giving me a dangerous game. Does anybody remember that short story? I had to read it in high school. It has a similar plot. These people go to this island, it's a competition, and it turns out, no, it was a man. He goes to this island, I forgot for what purpose, and he ends up being hunted. When a husband asks his wife to consider what might be missing from their marriage, what follows surprises them both: sex, heartbreak, and heart rekindling, and a rediscovered sense of all that is possible. Using the author's personal experiences as a jumping off point, Crush is about the danger and liberation of chasing desire, the havoc it can wreak, and most of all, the clear sense of self one finds when the storm passes. Crush is a sharp, funny, seductive, revelatory novel about holding on to everything it's possible to love: friends, children, parents, passion, lovers, husband, all of the world's good books, and most of all, one's own deep sense of purpose. Now, I have never read a Nora Roberts book, but that will definitely change come May. I saw the synopsis for Hidden Nature. It's supposed to be a thriller. A detective has been on the hunt for a serial killer, and she thinks that she's taking a break from the case. She's been injured, and she returns, I think, to her hometown to recover. Turns out, she didn't get as far from the case as she thought. Now, who has seen that movie, The Day After Tomorrow? It's an early 2000s catastrophic event movie. And this book, All the Water in the World, has similar vibes. A family is surviving on the rooftop of the natural Museum of History in New York. And so it follows them trying to survive and protect the relics that are still in the museum. We live in a world with emerging technologies, some with the intent to make our lives easier, more convenient, and others with the intent to protect the interests of the powerful. This next read poses the question: how much of our freedom and privacy are we willing to sacrifice for the promise of safety in a world governed by emerging technologies? Sarah has landed at LAX, and when she does, agents from the Risk Assessment Administration pull her aside and inform her that she will soon commit a crime. Based on data from her dreams, the RAA's algorithm has determined that she is about to commit a crime against her husband. She has been committed to a retention center for observation for 21 days. Months have passed, and Sarah seems no closer to being released. That is until a new resident arrives, giving her a chance at freedom and a confrontation with the companies that have deprived her of said freedom. Technology that is able to determine if we're going to commit a crime based on our dreams. If this technology was available today, I'm sure like half the population would be locked up. Now, I'm not trying to rush Father Time, but April cannot come soon enough. It'll be spring and a drop of corruption will be released. This is the second book of a fantasy series that I started this year. I enjoyed the first one very much. And if y'all haven't noticed, I make a lot of references to TV and anime because I watch a lot of TV. So this book is a fantasy and it gives me Sherlock Holmes meets House meets Attack on Titan meets Full Metal Alchemist. If you have been following my reads this year, you know that I have discovered a new sci-fi author, S.A. Barnes. I didn't know until prepping for this video that she actually writes more than sci-fi under a different pen name. She has some YA reads and also some romances too. Cold Eternity is another sci-fi horror where the female main character is dealing with some serious circumstances and thinks that getting off planet will be an escape from those problems. Now, if this book is like any of the others I've read, the main character is going to go to hell and back before she gets the answers and the peace that she's looking for. Speaking of horror and characters going to hell and back, these next three present plots with just that. One night, Jess, a struggling actress, finds a 5-year-old runaway hiding in the bushes outside her apartment. After a violent, bloody encounter with the boy's father, she and the boy find themselves running for their lives. As they attempt to evade the boy's increasingly desperate father, Jess slowly comes to a horrifying understanding of the butchery that follows them. The boy can turn his every fear into reality. And when the wolf finally comes home, no one will be spared. The Hellbore Technical Institute for the Gifted is the premier academy for the dangerously powerful, the Antichrist and the Ragnaroks, the World Eaters and the Apocalypse Makers. Hellbore promises redemption, acceptance, and a normal life after graduation. At least that's what Alyssa Lee is told when she's kidnapped and forcibly enrolled. But there's more to Hellbore than meets the eye. On graduation day, the faculty go on a ravenous rampage, feasting on Alyssa's class. Only Alyssa and a group of her classmates escape the carnage. Trapped in the school's library, they must offer a human sacrifice every night, or else the faculty will break down the door and kill everyone. Can they band together and survive, or will the faculty eat its fill? This sounds like a school that I would never want to enroll in. Okay. These students need to, if they can make it through the night, they need to ask for these classes to be dropped from their record and get their money back. Last but not least is The Maiden and Her Monster by Maddie Martinez. It's said to be an atmospheric fantasy reimagining the Jewish myth of Golem in a tale of a cursed forest, impossible choices, and sapphic romance. As the healer's daughter, Malka has seen how the wood's curse has plagued her village, but the Oz Mini Church only comes to collect its tithe, not to listen to heretics with false stories of monsters and trees. So when a clergy girl wanders too close to the forest and Malka's mother is accused of her murder, Malka strikes an impossible bargain with a zealot Osmini priest. Bring the monster out and spare her mother from execution. When she ventures into the shadowed woods, Malka finds a monster, but not the one she expects, an inscrutable, disgraced golem who agrees to implicate herself, but only if Malka helps her fulfill an ancient promise. First, and free the imprisoned rabbi who created her. But a deal easily made is not easily kept. And as their bargain begins to unravel, a much more sinister threat, protecting her people, may force Malka to endanger the one person she left home to save and face her growing feelings for the very creature she was taught to fear. Phew, I know we have been here for like 45 minutes, and I thank y'all so much for bearing with me. I could not shorten the list. I had to share every single one of these. Definitely let me know if you like how I break up the video, or if you guys would be okay with me just like inserting slides with the book information, or you just like me chatting about them. Let me know, okay? I hope 2025 is going to be a great year, not only in terms of reading, but also for any plans, hopes, projects, goals that you guys are working on. And I'm definitely speaking to myself here as well. I'm looking forward to the new year. Fingers crossed, everything that we hope for working on will come to fruition. Definitely let me know down below if any of the books I touched on ended up on your TBR. We can be reading twinsies, okay? And until next time, you guys, stay safe, be blessed. I hope you have a great start to your year. And until next time, remain unapologetically you.